Parshas Tisa, a word that comes to mind is the word sincerity. Why so? So we know the main bulk of Parshas Tisa deals with the Chet Egel. Bnei Yisrael, how they patiently, or shall we say impatiently, waited for Moshe Rabbeinu to come down from Har Sinai. They decided to build an Egel and to use that Egel to worship, to do their avodah. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he discovers this, destroys the Egel, and terrible things happen. Hashem was ready to destroy the entire nation. All the commentaries are baffled and really bothered over here. How could it be that Bnei Yisrael, who just saw the revelation, they just saw everything at Har Sinai and all the Nissan that they went through, how could they commit something which apparently seems to be avodah zarah? All the commentaries deal with this. Rabbi Levi in the Kuzari, he explains as follows, that the sin of Bnei Yisrael, the Aveira that Bnei Yisrael did of the Egel, was not one of distancing themselves from Hashem, rather the Chet Egel was one of trying to come close to Hashem. That's what Rabbi Levi says. And it wasn't that Bnei Yisrael were trying to remove themselves and saying everything we saw is no longer true. On the contrary, it was everything we saw, we want to attach ourselves to it. We want this, we want the Shekhinah thing, we want the revelation, we want to continue this. And we were hoping that this was going to continue with Moshe Rabbeinu. And they were, according to the Kuzari, they knew about the Mishkan or something of that sort was coming their way. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was about to announce to them when he came down. And they were patiently, or shall I say impatiently, waiting for the moment to come that they can serve Hashem through physical means, through the Mishkan. But they were getting impatient. And because of that impatience, they decided to take the matter into their own hands. They were, when they were concerned that Moshe Rabbeinu was not coming down from Har Sinai, so they said, we will have to now do this on our own. But their goal was, and their plan was, ultimately to come close to Hashem and not to distance themselves from Hashem. End of the day, it was an Aveira. And in fact, the first thing that Bnei Yisrael had told in Parshas Yisro, right after the Sefer Dibros, is, everything you saw over here at Har Sinai, this is all amazing, but don't make any images of this vision. This should only be in your mind, and it cannot be for real. So Bnei Yisrael still committed the crime. But the crime was not one of distancing themselves, but rather was trying to come close. It was still an Aveira. The lesson over here is a very important lesson, that sometimes we judge our actions based on our sincerity, and based on how much we are trying to come close or come far from Hashem. And fall into the trap sometimes that any action that we do that is ultimately trying to come close to Hashem, have a kiruv to Hashem, must be okay and must be fine. Not necessarily. Everything. The Torah has what to say about everything. And part of keeping the Torah is knowing that the Torah has what to say about everything. Everything in life has guidelines. And you got to accept that. Not only does the Torah say on how to do business, and not only does the Torah say on how to keep Shabbos, the Torah says how to serve Hashem. Hashem says, you got to serve me on my turf. The Medrash tells us that every single nation of the world was given an opportunity to keep the Torah, and Hashem then challenged the nation in the one area that was very weak for them. For the nation that was very difficult for them in the areas of murdering, Hashem revealed to them that the Torah says you're not allowed to murder. Are you willing to accept it on those terms? So Hashem chose the area that was most difficult for them to see if they were to accept it, and they would not. Bnei Yisrael, although they didn't ask for it, believe it or not, some explain that Bnei Yisrael was still challenged in the area that was most difficult for them. Right before Bnei Yisrael got the Torah, Hashem says to the Jews, listen, we're really getting one commandment before the Torah, and that is, I'm drawing a line around the mountain, Mount Har Sinai. Don't come too close to the Har Sinai. Can you accept that? And in fact, that was the Bnei Yisrael's biggest challenge, because Bnei Yisrael, all they wanted was to come close to Hashem. That is the biggest desire. Hashem says you can have the Torah, but listen, accept on the terms that don't come too close to the mountain. Even serving me, there are rules involved, and if you can accept the Torah under such terms that you will serve me, even according to my guidelines, so then you can have the Torah. The Chet Egel was that Aveira. Bnei Yisrael tripped up, but Baruch Hashem, the lesson was learned. Right after Bnei Yisrael were atoned for the Chet Egel, so we are told about the Mishkan. Rashi says that it's called the Mishkan HaEdus because it was a kapara for the Chet Egel. Rashi mentions this at the beginning of Pekudei. Also in Shmini mentions, and Tzad and Shmini mentions that the Mishkan was a kapara for the Chet Egel. The Beis Halevi explains that one of the areas that was a kapara for the Chet Egel was because there's one major difference between the Mishkan and the Egel. They're both physical means of serving Hashem. They're both ways of coming close to Hashem via something physical, but the one difference is the Mishkan had a commandment of Hashem, it had a stamp of approval from Hashem, and the Chet and the Egel did not. When Bnei Yisrael built the Mishkan, the words Kasher Tziva Hashem appear over and over again, because that was the ultimate kapara, that we're doing it because Hashem commanded us to. And that is the lesson of the Egel.